So, on the surface, this just looks like another payment app, right? But in Brazil, this app, it's called Pix, and it's doing a whole lot more than just buying coffee. It's actually at the very center of a story that's completely shaking up the world of finance, taking on corporate giants, and quietly redrawing the entire global map of money and power. Now, I know that sounds a little dramatic, but it's exactly what's happening. A payment system, backed by the state, has become so unbelievably popular that it's sending ripples way, way beyond Brazil's borders. To really get how, we first need to understand how this whole revolution got started. All right, so let's start where this whole thing kicked off. On the ground, in Brazil, where a financial revolution has been, well, quietly and then very, very loudly taking over. So back in 2020, Brazil's central bank rolls out Pix, and almost overnight, it becomes this dominant force. Now here's the key difference. Pix wasn't some private tech startup from Silicon Valley. It was launched as a piece of national infrastructure, kind of like a public utility. And that one detail, it changed everything. So just how dominant are we talking about here? 30%. Think about that. In less than 5 years, Pix has managed to capture nearly a third of all e-commerce payments in the entire country. And you can see it right here. That 30% chunk of the pie didn't just appear out of thin air. No, it was taken directly from the old school players, the credit cards, the debit cards, all the traditional bank transfers. So the big question is, how on earth did Pix pull off this massive heist? It really boils down to these three incredibly simple but powerful things. First, it's ridiculously easy to use. Second, the payments are instant. I mean, truly instant. No more waiting around for days for your money to clear. And third, and this is the real kicker, it's completely free for people and for businesses. So when you combine that kind of ease with that kind of speed and a price tag of zero, you get nothing short of explosive growth. Okay, so this incredible meteoric rise, it obviously didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it was a direct challenge to the old guard of the financial world. Yep, the credit card companies. Let's just break this down, because this is really the heart of the conflict. For decades, if you were a business, you paid high fees to the credit card networks, and you had to wait, sometimes for days, to actually get your money. Pix just completely flipped that script. We're talking instant settlement, zero fees, and it's all running on a platform controlled by the state. Suddenly, for a small business owner, the choice became crystal clear. So here's the thing. It's not like credit cards are just gone. But what Pix did was light a massive fire under this huge established industry. They can't dictate the terms anymore. Now they actually have to compete. They have to offer faster settlements and lower their fees just to stay in the game. I mean, think about that. The whole power dynamic just got flipped on its head. As one analyst put it, a state-developed platform is now setting the pace for the market. The private companies aren't the ones leading the charge anymore. They're literally racing to catch up to the government. And this, right here, is where the story gets so much bigger. We need to zoom out, because Pix isn't just a payment app anymore. You could almost see it as a declaration of independence for the digital age. This all boils down to a really key idea: digital sovereignty. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, simply put, it's the idea that a country should be able to control its own digital lifeblood, its data, its financial system, without having to rely on foreign companies or other governments. And Pix is like the textbook example of this in action. For Brazil, this means they get way more control over their own domestic economy. They're less dependent on those big international networks like Visa and MasterCard. And maybe most importantly, they've created a powerful blueprint that other countries that also want more financial freedom, are watching very, very closely. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. We're going to zoom all the way out now to the global stage to see why a payment app in Brazil has people in Washington and other world capitals paying very close attention. So you might be asking yourself, why would Washington care about a payment app in Brazil? And that's a great question. The concern is this: if one country can successfully pull this off and build its own financial plumbing, well, others might just follow their lead. And if enough countries do that, it could start to chip away at the system that's dominated global finance for decades. At the heart of all this is the US dollar. You know, for decades, pretty much all of global finance has revolved around the dollar, running through networks that are heavily influenced by the US. Systems like PIX represent a first step away from that model, a move towards a world with maybe multiple, independent financial centers of power. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. There are active, serious discussions happening right now about creating something called BRICS Pay. This would be a shared payment system for the BRICS nations, letting them trade directly with each other and potentially bypassing the US dollar entirely. You can almost see the dominoes lined up here, right? Step 1. A country like Brazil proves the model works with something like PIX. Step 2. That success inspires other nations to build their own systems. Step 3, they start to team up on alternatives, like BRICS Pay. And step 4, while that could be a direct challenge to SWIFT, which is the very backbone of global banking as we know it. So as we wrap this up, it's pretty clear. PIX is so much more than just a convenient way to pay for your coffee in Sao Paulo. It has become this powerful symbol of a world where financial power is shifting, becoming more spread out, more sovereign, and frankly, a lot more complicated. In the end, this isn't just about banks or technology. It's really a contest, as one of our sources puts it, between global finance versus a new era of digital sovereignty. The success of a simple payment app in Brazil has put that fundamental question on the world stage, and we're only just beginning to see how it's all going to play out. Thanks for joining The Explainer.